there, and welcome to the Big Apple Scroll podcast. My name is Sam.
And my name is Bryan.
And today we're asking what's the crack about?
Brexit and Trump.
Woo! Lots of politics. I'm sure you're all excited. I am too. So we're going to ask, what is Brexit? Because we need to clarify that. What it means for British people, how they feel about it, what problems there are connected with it. It's a big topic and it is very serious for people in the UK. Then we're going to delve into Mr. Trump.
And what does he mean? And how amazing he is or terrible he is?
Yeah.
Or
he entertains the world with his ideas and his politics, his hair, which waves in the wind. Is it a wig? Is it not? That's a huge question.
Or is it a cat? I don't even know. Yeah, maybe.
Maybe a dead cat.
A dead
maybe.
cat, yes.
So we'll delve into all of that. So let's go ahead, Bryan, and ask me. Hit me.
So, Sam, what is Brexit? Our listeners are dying to know.
Brexit is, surprise or not, it is a completely new word, which just in the last few years.
Can you Brexit a building?
I would be interested to see that, but because of my past in construction and engineering, but I don't think we can Brexit a building. Oh, actually, maybe. If there are enough British people in a building, they could Brexit. Because, well, the word Brexit is two words put together, mashed together, crushed together. It's the word Britain or Great Britain or, well, in fact, if you want to be politically correct or most accurate, it's the UK. But UKexit doesn't sound as good as Brexit. So it's the word Britain and exit. And it's all about Britain exiting the EU, the European Union. This union that has existed for quite a while, of 27, 28 countries, I believe, I may not be correct. By the way, if anyone listening finds any inaccuracies in what I say about Brexit, you can write them and inform people. That's okay. I don't pretend to be an expert, but I can give my view. You're going to be an expert on Trump?
Yes. So save your comments.
I mean, I'm the most qualified person in the room.
But yes, you are.
But I'm not an expert.
Okay, so did you vote in the Brexit referendum? And if so, do you mind sharing how you vote? How you cast
I
your
don't
vote?
mind. So normally votes especially in Northern Ireland, are kept secret because we have a kind of problem there. Still an issue with different sides of the community. People considering themselves Irish and others who consider themselves British. So we don't normally like to share our vote because it's a tough thing to share.
No, of course.
But as far as the Brexit referendum, I think I'm safe to say, yes, I did vote in it. It was back, if I remember correctly, in June, July 2016. It was definitely 2016 anyway. And I voted to leave.
Wow.
I said yes.
You were a leaver.
I was a leaver. Honestly, I question whether that was the right decision now. But I was confident that that was what I wanted.
I hear that's a big struggle for many people. There are many who have said post-Brexit that if they were to vote again in a new referendum, they would change their ballot.
Yeah, I mean, it was a close call, first of all, because it was 52% majority who voted, yes, let's get out. And I think that for most people, the reason to leave was because they want to control the borders. Because in the UK, people can come and go. I mean, if you're part of the European Union, that means that you're part of this one big group state almost.
Almost one big country, yes.
And you can go in and out freely. I mean, advantage is that I can go to Germany, France, all these places, Romania, everywhere in the European Union without a visa, without any checks.
It's a wonderful thing, yes.
Just show your passport. Right. Oh, it's got the symbol. Great.
Right.
Go on ahead. And, but for me, the issue was not about people coming and going and, jobs and economy and the effect that has. For me, I had just recently finished my degree and studied, for my dissertation, I studied European law, specifically tendering. That's how the government gets a company to do work for them, construction work for them, and the loops and that they need to go through in order to get a company to do work for them. And to me, and maybe I'm wrong, but to me, reading all of the law connected with that, I thought, wow, this is so complicated. And I mean, the European Union politicians there have to try and write laws that apply to 28 different places. And they're often quite different places, different culture, different language, although a lot of English is spoken. Different geographically, in weather, all kinds of differences between these countries. And for me, I thought, well, my logic was that this is bad to try and write laws for all these different places, and like it's too much. So for me, I thought, let's get out so that the UK can control its own laws and make laws that are simpler for people and for companies. And so that was my thinking.
So now that you've kind of seen that Brexit hasn't been as expedient or as quick as people thought, maybe in the beginning, what do you think about how the process has played out?
I think I'm safe to say that most people, and including myself, are a little bit disappointed, or maybe a lot disappointed, because it's not gone smoothly at all. It's still not happened after the deadline. Well, so what happened was people voted, the majority was yes. I think it was a big shock to some politicians, especially David Cameron, who was then the Prime Minister. I think he expected people to say no. And in fact, if I'm correct, there was a referendum back a few years prior in Ireland, and they said, let's stay in. And so I think he was fairly confident that people would vote, let's stay in.
And then, of course, there's been the Scottish independence movement as well. And so, yes.
Yeah. And so it was a big shock, but they filed, how can I say it simply? They filed for divorce, let's say, on March the 29th in 2017. So when you do that, you have 2 years to implement and to get out, basically. So it's what happens in the European Union is you have 2 years to adopt laws and to organize all the laws and fit them to your country. And basically, we're given 2 years to figure out how they're going to leave, what kind of policies, how the divorce settlement, and how they will then trade with the European Union. And it hasn't worked. They haven't been able, the politicians in the UK haven't been able to agree with the divorce, if you like, with the deal that was proposed with the European Union.
So then that kind of brings us to our next question. Knowing what we know now, is Brexit still a good idea? And why or why not?
When I voted, I understood. I didn't understand many things. And in fact, I didn't have hindsight to know what would happen. But I understood that it would have a negative effect, at least in the short term. And I was willing to accept that.
Maybe a drop in the pound?
My mom, yeah, so I was willing to accept that it would have some negative effect on the economy in the short term. And maybe it's selfish because I then left and came to Russia. And my mom was like, hey, why are you voting when you're going off to Russia? And it might not directly affect me. But even so, I felt that it was worth leaving because for me, I feel, and maybe I'm wrong, but I feel that the union is not sustainable because of the very different countries. And maybe I'm wrong. I think it's very hard to say one way or the other because we don't know the future. No one can predict what will happen and what won't happen. Even the best politicians and economists don't know. And it's such a complex issue because every business is affected differently. If you're a local business which only operates in the UK, it could actually be a benefit to you to have this separation from Europe.
Depending on who you employ.
Depending on who you employ, if you're not employing people from Europe, if you're only working with local people or mostly with local people and local suppliers, if you're selling just to British people and working only exclusively within the borders of the UK, then it can be a benefit to you because you'll have less competition, potentially. But if you're a bigger company that's got big ties to Europe and you're importing and exporting, it can have it could have a negative effect. So
very true.
I do question whether it's still a good idea to Brexit, if we like.
Yes.
But I think it's too complicated an issue to say yes or no to that.
Right. Well, those are kind of the problems within a confederation, which is what the EU kind of is.
When you have a union, I would use the word union.
You don't think it's a confederation? I mean, it's got a governing body. It has independent sovereign nations, and a confederation fits both of those parameters.
I feel, well, actually, if you look at, I think if you look at our passport, and I have, by the way, I have an Irish passport. Because I was born in Northern Ireland, I can claim either a British passport or an Irish, or both at the same time. Or both,
okay.
It's part of the peace agreement from 1998 that anyone born in Northern Ireland can claim those. And actually, when we leave, I still will have a European Union passport because I have an Irish passport, which again might be a little bit selfish to me.
It is.
But that wasn't a factor when I voted.
No.
But I think when you look at the passport, it's actually treated, I don't know the wording because I haven't my passport in front of me, but each country is treated like a state, part of that union. And you have this government overall, the European Union government, which are kind of like the chief sovereign, if you like. And each country is kind of like, I guess you could say like, I think I'm right in saying it's like a state in the US. They're little states.
Except the difference is, in the US, let's say, for example, Texas wants to secede from the Union, which has been thrown around a couple of times. They can't legally do that. Whereas Great Britain is given the latitude to do so. And Greece, if we remember back to the economic issues in Greece, they kept borrowing money from Germany and France, and from the EU Central Bank. And then they were told, you need to pay it back. And Greece kept saying, nope, not going to do it. And then they said, well, impose austerity measures. And they said, nope, not going to do it either. And the EU said, so what can we do? And the answer was nothing.
So there is more freedom.
Yes. Which is why I would say it's a confederation, because if you look at U.S. history, you had the Confederacy, where each independent state had its own army and operated as independent functionaries, I guess you could say, within the Confederate Army as a whole. But the generals and the governors of their states had no real loyalty outside of the fact they wanted to work together to defeat the Union Army. So honestly, it's more like a confederacy in that sense, just like the EU, not the EU, but the United Nations, where if Russia says we don't want to pay sanctions, the UN can't say you have to. Russia just says we're not going to pay.
There's no ultimate sovereignty.
No.
Right.
So sovereignty lies with those lower states.
And there's Article 50 in the European law allows the UK to get to Brexit.
So there we are.
So yes, I guess.
And there is an Article 50 in the Constitution that says if California is mad and wants to form into 5 states, they can do that.
Wow. I never knew that about the US. That Texas could potentially.
They can't.
They can't. They can't. But they want
legally. They cannot legally. They would have to declare themselves an independent state. The U.S. would have to recognize their sovereignty, which they would never do, and it would probably cause another war between the U.S. and Texas, and Texas would have to ally with someone like Mexico, which would be an odd combination to go back to 1854 for a Mexican-American War again. But anyway.
Do many people in Texas speak Spanish?
Yes, it is really the second most common language in Texas for sure. And in many areas, you find more Spanish than English, especially as you get closer to the border. And my hometown of San Antonio, where you could say arguably more people speak Spanish than English, is very close. Very close, yes. So the next question, who wins with Brexit? Who is the winner if they do finally Brexit?
The UK as I see it, is going to have negative effects. It depends on the deal, and they haven't decided the deal yet, and there are a lot of issues with that. Honestly, if it's a bad deal, the EU could lose, and the UK could lose as well. And so whether or not another country or global economy will be negatively affected, I don't know. But it could be bad for both the EU and the UK, especially if there's no deal, and the UK just leaves, and that's it.
And of course, an unstable Europe, you could say, could be a global issue.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a huge part of the world, and a lot of rich countries are connected with it, and the dealings with lots of places in the world. So, I mean, it's gonna have some effect
on
the world stage.
For sure. So, what are people concerned in the UK most about with Brexit?
The impression I get, although I'm not living in the UK, is that people are sick of hearing it. If you're not a politician, and I guess if you're a politician, you probably are sick of hearing it.
It seems
about
like
it too. Brexit. If you're watching the news, you're probably sick of the word Brexit. I suspect my parents are probably sick of the word Brexit, and sick of the fact that it's not solved yet. And what I should say as well is some of the issues, and one of the biggest issues that's holding it back is Northern Ireland, where I'm from, because there is a land border. It's the only land border between the European Union. When the Brexit happens, it'll be the only land border between the European Union and the UK.
Right.
And this is got some history, because there was a lot of terrorism and stuff in Northern Ireland. There are a lot of strong opinions about whether Northern Ireland should remain part of the UK or whether it should go back to being part of Ireland as it was historically, pre sort of 1920-ish time. And there are sort of mixed views in Northern Ireland. Around about half of the people would love it to be part of Ireland again, and another half want it to stay in the UK. And as part of the peace agreement back in 1998, there was a peace agreement called the Good Friday Agreement,
yes.
which meant these passports that I told you about, the Irish passport and UK passport, you can have. But it also meant that this border was open and free. You can travel there are no checks.
Oh, okay.
You can go back and forth all day on this border, along the road or walking, whatever you want to do. You can go back and forth with no checks at the moment. But how is that going to work is one of the big questions. How's that going to work in the European Union? So this is what's holding it back, actually.
Isn't there also, just to point out, maybe I'm wrong, isn't Gibraltar a Great Britain territory?
I believe so.
And doesn't it border Spain?
Yes.
So wouldn't that be two land borders between EU and UK?
Okay.
And couldn't that cause problems? Because there are many migrants who come from Northern Africa to Spain. And if they knew...
what makes Northern Ireland unique is not the fact that there's a land border, but the fact that it's connected with peace.
Yes.
And that's
and unprotected,
a huge thing.
Unguarded, yes, of course.
And that's a huge thing. And if you close down that border, it's going to affect the economy between the two countries, because there's small region and a small country, and it's going to have a huge effect. So it's not just about money; it's also about peace, and it's a really heated debate about that. And I think maybe a lot of British people aren't very worried about that, but for Northern Irish people, that's a huge deal.
I understand.
That's a big thing.
Yes. Okay, so let's go to Trump, and I think you have a question for
Brexit,
me. We're Brexiting.
We're Brexiting Brexit. Lots more we could say, but we don't want to bore people. And we really want to talk about our lovely man with the wavy hair.
Oh, Lord.
When did Donald Trump start his presidency?
Officially, Donald Trump started his presidency on January 21st of 2017.
Woohoo!
But he won back in November, right?
Lots
There's
of things
a gap
happened.
between the election and the beginning of the presidency term.
2017 was a great year.
2016. 2017 was a great year for show business, I guess, or for, satire against the United States, I'm sure. And ever since then, it's been a wild ride of Donald Trump and his
There's
whatever
never a
you
dull
would call
moment.
it. No,
Never a dull
never.
moment.
No, my students back in the States never tired of talking about what crazy thing Donald Trump was doing now, or have you heard the recent tweet that he had against Kim Jong-un or Iran or anyone, really.
Do you think he's good for the tourist economy? They want to go just to listen, feel the culture that he's created?
I don't know that people will ever go to the States to see, hear, be near, experience the greatness of Donald Trump. I think people still like to go to the United States for the same reasons they went before, which is because people think the U.S. is some kind of standard or that it offers some kind of life that they can't get elsewhere.
The American dream.
The American dream. America.
And you've lots of Irish people went for the American dream.
They did. Yeah. They really did. I mean, many people around the world have gone there, and it's still the number one place for immigrants more than any other country, even with the Syrian migration going to the European Union. The U.S. still tops the list, yes.
Wow. When does this presidency finish?
Okay, so it's a 4-year term, so he'll finish January 19th of 2021 officially. But
will he get another term in office?
You know, right now the reports say yes, because the economy is strong.
Right.
It's stronger than it's been before President Bush was in office. The second President Bush, which started in 2000, right? So actually 2001, he started his presidency. But there are many people who would say no. Obviously, the Democrats are not fans of Donald Trump, and people who support Democratic policies in the United States don't normally like Donald Trump. But many researchers, statisticians, people that have followed presidencies and go back and do algorithms and things like this, they say right now, unless he just completely tanks the economy in a really horrific way, unless he does that, even with many of his controversial stances and what he's said and how he's been in the public eye, there's no way he's going to lose. In fact, people are saying it's going to be a landslide.
Wow.
And of course, if you look at how fragmented the Democratic Party is and how they don't really have a good front runner for who they're going to put up against him. If there was a strong name that was known and someone who had a proven track record, like a former Democrat president, like a vice president people liked, maybe. But right now, they're saying he's going to win running away.
Wow, okay. Yeah. And what did you think? Maybe I should ask, who did you vote? Were you in the States at that time? Can I ask who you voted for?
Of course you can.
Is it a secret?
No, it is not a secret. In fact, my students would ask me all the time, and when I was teaching at the time, they would say, "You voted for Trump, didn't you?" And I said, "Why?" Because I'm white. And they said, "Yes." And I said, "That's wrong." So I didn't vote for Trump. I didn't vote for Hillary. I have voted Republican in the past. I voted Democrat in the past. I don't like to pick a party. I voted for Gary Johnson. He was a libertarian candidate. And honestly, I knew he wasn't going to win. People said, so then kind of like your parents said, why would you vote in Brexit if you're leaving? People said, why would you vote for Gary Johnson if you know he's not going to win? That's a vote for Donald Trump, or that's a vote for Hillary Clinton. No, because neither got to tally my vote in their box. So I voted for Gary Johnson as a protest vote. I thought, and I still think, that both the Republican and Democrat parties have a lot of work to do to regain any kind of trust I would have in them. And so I voted for him, not because I thought he would win, but because I wanted the other parties to take note of the fact that they are losing support from people who would consider themselves moderate or middle of the road voters.
Okay, fair enough. That's interesting. What controversial policies has Trump supported?
Oh, what controversial policies hasn't he supported? I mean, where should we start? We don't have enough time to go through everything. So we'll start with the fact that he wanted to build a border wall. And ever since he got elected, his big thing has been build the wall. Build the wall. And of course, some like it, some don't. Some feel like the wall isn't really the issue. If you're talking about immigration, that there's a bigger issue with visas. And what about the wall with Canada? Why don't we want to build a wall there? And what about a wall between us and the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans? You build a wall there as well. People that want to
put a roof on.
Yeah, exactly. How far do you go? So that was a policy. It's still an issue today. He is angry that people in sports don't stand for the national anthem. They want to kneel as a protest against racism and inequality in the United States. His issues with North Korea, the Iran nuclear deal, the fact that he wants to, or that he didn't, not wanted to, but he pulled out of the Paris Climate Accords. I mean, there are a number of things.
Taxes and stuff. He's trying to tax more different countries.
Yes.
Renegotiate things.
Right. With China and, but in essence, every politician is going to do things the people don't always like. I mean, if you look at Macron, when he came to power in France, very popular, and now you have the yellow vest protests. If you look at Justin Trudeau in Canada, very popular, and now he's got people fighting back against him for his policies. Theresa May was supposed to solve Brexit, and we have just talked about Brexit is not yet solved. So I don't think you're going to find a politician who does everything right. Politics is not about being perfect. It's about negotiating what's best for the country. And even if you don't believe in that,
it's not even always popular.
No. If the country benefits, then who are we to say he's doing a poor job? I mean, okay.
The proof of the pudding is in the eating.
Correct.
Yeah.
People still go to the States. The dollar is still traded around the world more than any other currency. And the American economy is stronger than it was 8, 12, or 16 years ago. So if that's a failure, then we could say that he failed. If we're going to focus on social issues, sure, that is not his strong suit. People who voted for him didn't vote for social issues. They voted on economic issues and immigration, which I think are two things he's trying to address, albeit immigration is still broken in the United States.
Do you think that he's changed America in any way? And is it positive or negative overall?
Well, I think that people either like him or hate him, which, again, is always a thing with politicians.
Do you know?
Is it a change? I don't know.
Let me pause it. Do you know Marmite or Vegemite?
I do.
There's a kind of slogan, especially for Marmite in the UK. Vegemite's Australian and Marmite is UK. And we have a slogan for it, you either love it or hate it. I think it was how they promoted it, actually.
It might have been, yeah.
And it kind of, when you talk about Trump, he's like Marmite for everybody. You either love him or hate him. You can't be like, just passive, like, oh, yeah, he's okay.
Right. Kind of like anchovies on a pizza kind of thing.
I guess maybe. So. Yeah.
So
I've never eaten them, but I think I wouldn't like them.
You wouldn't like them. You've already decided. Wow, that's unfortunate.
Not a big, they're fish, aren't they?
They are.
Little fish.
They are little fish.
I think are anchovies sardines?
They might be the same.
We have a sardine, it comes from a tin, a little fish.
Might be, yeah.
I am not a big fish lover. I eat fish, but not.
I love fish.
Not a big fish.
I love them. But anyway, has he changed America in any way? I think America is more divided politically and socially than it has been in a long time. Okay. And that is not good. That's one reason I would find myself more apolitical than anything else aligned with a party. And that, I believe, is negative for sure. Divisiveness in a country is never good, in my opinion, especially when it goes long-term and it just festers.
The divided states of America.
Yeah, it's just not, it's not good. And that would be negative. Overall, positive impact, like I would say earlier, the economy is definitely positive, moving in the right direction, in my opinion. So, well, that comes our last question. Which is worse, Brexit for the UK or Trump for the US?
So it's how do we vote? How do we do it?
Yeah.
Do we do it on a point scale?
But you had more questions.
Okay, so if I can, so Brexit at the moment of recording hasn't happened yet.
Nope. Trump has been president.
It's still up in the air.
True.
We don't know the adverse effects. It's if I'm right in saying, I think that so far there hasn't been a huge negative effect, but then we haven't Brexited yet.
Correct.
We haven't left.
Correct.
So it still remains to be seen how negative it will be. As I said, it will be negative. Okay. It's just a question of how negative and for how long.
Right.
It's going to be negative, at least short term. Maybe some even say medium term. It's going to affect the economy specifically. And it depends on how good a deal there will be between the EU and the UK. For me, as a Northern Irish person, it's gonna, one way or another, it's gonna have some effect in Northern Ireland. I just hope that it doesn't create conflict, as has happened in the past. I hope that doesn't kick off again. So if conflict happens, I will look back and say, I wish I never voted yes to leave. As far as the economy, if it's short to medium term, especially if it's a short term negative effect on the economy, I think we can bear with it. We can live with that, because, I mean, that happens anyway. Recessions and stuff are a natural thing.
Of course.
So I think there's a cost to pay to leave the union and to have our own independence and freedom to control. And if we do leave and in the end, have the freedom to make our own laws without a lot of supervision and control from the European Union. And that, by the way, depends on the deal, because some of the deal could be that we don't have so much control, even though we do leave. So, but if we leave and have control and things are comfortable and peaceful in Northern Ireland, and even if there's negative economic effect, if it's short term, I think it's okay. It will be overall, for me, my personal opinion, it'll be okay. It'll be worth it. So at the moment, I would say that it's okay for the UK.
Okay.
It's what the UK people overall wanted, although it was only a small majority. It's not comfortable at the moment. People aren't happy. They're waiting to see what will happen. They're like impatient, of course, and frustrated with the politicians. But I think in the end, only time will tell, but I'm going to say it's 50-50.
Okay. And so in that case, I would have to agree with you, because Trump has been president now for over 2 years. And so he will be more negative because we know some of the results of his presidency, not overall results and not the impact on the long-term future, but he's been president, and many would say he's been the worst president ever, at least in modern history. So I would say that Trump has been worse for the U.S. because, like we said, Brexit hasn't happened yet. And since he has been president and we've seen some of the side effects of his election, it's been worse. So yes, I think we will have to agree and say Trump in the U.S. has been worse than Brexit.
Wow.
But since we're
even though there's economic benefit from him, it's the divisiveness.
Yes, I would say the divisiveness is just untenable. And something's going to happen in the U.S., and something needs to happen to bring us together again as a nation. So we'll see what that is.
Okay. Wow. So there you have it. We talked about what is Brexit. We talked about the issues and problems, some of them at least, and specifically about Northern Ireland, how people will feel or do feel. And then we talked about Donald Trump, when he came into office, what we think will happen in the future, what effect he has had in America. And we concluded that Trump is worse than Brexit. Wow. So that was the crack about Brexit and Trump.